We are so excited about being here with you, and we are grateful that you chose to come and be with us. Many of you have had a busy day, a busy week, and Sarah and I have as a commitment with our hope and our prayer is that as a result of your time being here, you think, I am so glad we came. It was truly an encouragement. That's our desire, that you go away after the last session saying, I am so thrilled that we made the decision to come. So we are here to serve you in that regard and make that our goal and our hope for you, that this will not be a time that you look back and say, man, I could have been doing something better. That is our commitment to you. Thank you for honoring us by coming. We are tickled to be here. We've been looking forward to this event. And every one of you honor us. Sarah and I are so grateful to you. And we hope that you'll laugh at all of my jokes. So I just want to make sure. Male and female communication. It is a fun topic. It is a fun topic. She says, I have nothing to wear. Right? What she means is she has nothing new. He says, I have nothing to wear. What he means is he has nothing clean. Now, how is it that you can say the same exact words? I have nothing to wear. I have nothing to wear. But you mean something different. That's amazing. How can that be? And it's based on male and female differences. And that's an innocent enough difference. But imagine she fixes an evening meal and afterwards she says, that's the worst meal I've ever made. He goes, no, it's not, honey. Now, where's that going to go? What are you saying? Are you saying I've made thousands of worse meals than that? Okay, mama's boy. Just go move in with your mother for a couple of weeks and let her feed your fat face. But what if he was full of goodwill? What if he was full of goodwill? What if he meant by what he said is, no, you haven't. You never made a bad meal. You see how we get into these tensions and conflicts and troubles? Irritations, fights, arguments. Bam, it can happen just that quick. What did you mean by what you said? Then again, maybe he'd been making some snide remarks over the last several weeks about her cooking. So when she said, that's the worst meal I've ever made. No, it's not, honey. Same words. Same words. But different tone. The first year of our life, as infants, we interpreted the whole world through the nonverbal. We watched our parents' facial expressions. We listened for tones. We didn't understand the meaning of the words. It's been suggested, even as adults, 80-90% of our communication is nonverbal. We're listening to what did you really mean by what you just said. I know what you meant. And so you can see how we get into these conflicts because we're trying to read what the other means. Why is that? Why does this kind of thing happen? Well, I believe in part it's because God made us this way. He made us male and female. I love the statement of Jesus. He said, have you not read? He who made them from the beginning made them male and female. Have you not read? He who made them from the beginning made them male and female. I liken it to the fact that God made women to look at the world through pink sunglasses. And it colors what she sees. In fact, I don't know if you know it, but she has pink hearing aids. And it affects what she hears. And in fact, she speaks through a pink megaphone. Men, on the other hand, wear blue sunglasses and have blue hearing aids and speak through a blue megaphone. So, for instance, if that woman is among 10 women and she says, I have nothing to wear, she speaks that through her pink megaphone. All 10 women who are listening through their pink hearing aids knows exactly what she meant by what she said. Oh, honey, I don't have anything new either, but we're going shopping in a few minutes. You want to come down with us? If that guy is speaking to 10 guys through his blue megaphone and they're listening through their blue hearing aids, I don't have anything to wear. They'll all say, she ain't doing your laundry either. Interesting dynamic. Pink and blue. Not wrong, just different. And as I looked at Scripture, I realized there was a powerful verse, Ephesians 5:33. Ephesians 5:33. That is the summary statement to the most significant treatise in all of the Bible on marriage. Almost everybody who turns to the Bible for wisdom and insight on marriage will always land at some point on Ephesians 5 because it is kind of the pinnacle. It's the greatest treatise on marriage. And Ephesians 5 concludes with a powerful statement. It is as though this is the summary statement. It is as though this is the last word to the church from God. You know, if my grandfather was dying and he was on his deathbed and he said, "Emerson, come, son, I have something to share with you. Come close. Come close." You and I know that whatever my grandpa said, it's going to be the most important thing he's ever said to me. It's been said that a person's last words are the most important words that they will speak. It's as though God is saying to the church, come close. Come close. I want to speak to you my last words on marriage. Listen to me, children. Listen to me, son. Listen to me, daughter. If you listen to me, everything's going to be okay. What I saw there is a pink and blue issue, a male and female issue. Paul, who penned it, writes this: husbands must love their wives, and wives must respect their husbands. And I thought, that's an interesting distinction. And I concluded that a wife needs to feel love for who she is like she needs air to breathe. In fact, she has a love tank, so to speak, kind of an oxygen tank. And there's a hose connected to this love tank, and she needs to breathe in that love like she breathes in air. She just needs to feel loved. And when she is loved, she feels fulfilled. She's a happy camper. But if he comes in as a big elephant looking for some place to eat his peanuts and stands on her air hose, she's not going to go, "Oh, okay, I'm going to suffocate and die." No, she's going to, "Get off my air hose, you beast, get off." And if there's a baseball bat there, she's going to club that elephant right upside the head. And all he's doing is looking for some place to eat his peanuts. And all he knows now is he's bleeding. "Get off my air hose, you beast." We'll come back to that. I will tell you that when her air hose is stepped on, she negatively reacts. And she's speaking through her pink megaphone, intending for blue hearing aid people to understand. Well, that second part of that verse says the wife must respect her husband. Apparently, he needs to feel respected for who he is apart from his performance, in the same way that she needs to be loved for who she is apart from her performance. What I discovered is that no husband feels fond feelings of love and affection in his heart toward a wife he thinks despises who he is. It's not within his nature, any more than a woman responds sexually to a man who's harsh and angry with her week after week. It's not within her nature. Her pink nature doesn't respond. She's not designed by God to respond to that. It's not within the male nature to respond to someone he thinks despises who he is. And what I've discovered is these concepts not only apply to marriage, and we know that many singles are here. A rose is a rose by any other name, and a male is a male, whatever else you call him, and a female is a female, no matter what you call her. That the nature tends to be the same. And he has this respect tank connected by an air hose, and he needs to breathe in that respect like he breathes in air. And when she comes in as a beautiful fawn, with all of her little fawnettes and has a picnic on his air hose, he's not going to go, "Oh, okay, I'm going to suffocate and die. Just go ahead and kill me." No. "Get out of here. Everybody get out of here. Get out of here." He's grouchy and grumpy and angry. "Get out of here." Interesting. Think about that. Husbands must love their wives. Wives must respect their husbands. Let me illustrate something, though. How does this play itself out? What would be an illustration of a woman feeling unloved? What would be an illustration of a husband feeling disrespected? Well, let's start with a woman. Suppose it's January 15th and she gets on the scales. And she looks down and she's put on 13 pounds. She comes to her husband and says, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I can't believe all the pounds I put on since all those Thanksgiving meals, all the Christmas parties, all the New Year celebrations. I can't believe it. I feel fat. I feel ugly. I have nothing to wear. Can't do anything with my hair. He's a sensitive guy. Trained in the 90s. He listens. He goes to the bookstore the next day and he comes in and the lead book right in the bookstore, Dieting for the Christian Woman. Every man makes this mistake once. The subtitle, Post-Holiday Menus. So he gets that book and brings it home. And he gives it to her. He thinks he's at Cape Canaveral. She goes ballistic. She goes right up. And as she's going up, she's screaming at him and pointing a finger. You men have two brains. You men have two brains. One's lost and the other's out looking for it. She calls him a brainless idiot. Now, what's going on? When she sees that diet book, her pink hearing aids go into dissonance. Her glasses fog over. And she hears a message coming through that diet book from him to her. And that message is this:
I do not accept you. I do not approve of you. I do not love you unless you look like a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader.
That's what she hears. That's what she hears. And she goes ballistic. She begins to feel, you don't love me unless. You'll only love me if. You'll only love me if I perform. That's what she hears. And she reacts negatively. In fact, when she feels unloved, she reacts in very disrespectful ways. In fact, what we're going to see is when he feels disrespected, he reacts in very unloving ways. But what's also interesting is if she brought a diet book home for him, she brings it to him and gives him a diet book. Hey, thanks. Hey, what's for dinner? And you see, when he looks at himself in the mirror, he can see Atlas there. He can bring Atlas out anytime he wants. May I suggest to you that body issues are different between men and women? All the research points this out. We all are concerned about how we look, but I'm going to tell you that women are especially sensitive to appearance issues. Very sensitive. And what's even more interesting is if her best girlfriend came over with the diet book. Did you get that diet book? She says to her best girlfriend. Yes. Well, are you going to go on that diet? Do you want to do it together? Should we start Monday? You see, when Pink speaks through Pink megaphone, Pink hearing aids no go into dissonance. But when Blue speak, go through dissonance. And also, though, sometimes, Pink can speak through her Pink megaphones about a diet book, and Blue doesn't go into dissonance. You can't never kind of know when it's going to happen. So when she feels unloved, she reacts, though, in ways that feel very disrespectful to him. Her negative reaction is trying to send him a message. I feel unloved right now. Unfortunately, at a certain point, he no longer hears the deeper cry of her heart. He only hears, I don't respect you, Buster, any further than I can throw you. What are we going to do about that dilemma? Well, let's think of a couple weeks down the road, and she's in that bookstore, and the lead book, The Key to Marital Bliss, Communication. And she picks up that book and starts reading it, and she says, this is us, this is us. She buys it. That's the third marriage book this year she's purchased for the two of them to read. She brings it home, and she devours it from cover to cover, and she says, he needs to read this. But he's busy. He's busy. He's too busy really to read it from cover to cover. So I'm going to highlight in yellow some of the key sections for him to... And then she puts it on a stand next to the chair that he sits in when he watches football. But she notices he doesn't pick it up. Why? Because this is the third marriage book. And that third marriage book, his blue hearing aids start going into dissonance. And he white knuckles it as he watches football. He knows it's there. He knows it's there. But he's thinking, first two marriage books we got huge fights. Huge fights. There's a third one. We're going to get in a huge fight. If I say something, I'm in trouble. If I don't say something, I'm in trouble. But if I don't say anything, I'm in less trouble. So he stonewalls. He neglects it. Why? In his world as a male, he hears a message coming from her through the marriage book to him, which is this: I don't accept you. I don't approve of you. I don't respect you, Buster, unless you change right now. That's what he hears. Now, I'm not justifying that. He can be completely wrong. Hey, I'm not justifying the wife when she goes ballistic when he's trying to be helpful and gives her a diet book. He may not even be coming close to saying, I don't love you, unless. And she may not even be coming close saying, I don't respect you, unless. But what I am going to say is there's a tendency within the nature of the female to interpret diet books through pink. She videotapes her world through pink. And she sees pink and she sees things that threaten pink. I'm not saying he's justified for feeling that way about the marriage book, but what I'm going to say, he's a male created by God. Not wrong, just different. And he interprets marriage books through a different grid. He doesn't see this as increasing love. He sees it as another situation that's going to result in him losing respect. And what's interesting is if he brought home a marriage book to her, she would go, Did you buy that marriage book for us? Do you want to read it? I mean, do you want to start tonight and just kind of go through it, the two of us, reading out loud to one another? And then she's going to be on the phone to all of her girlfriends, telling them that he brought home a marriage book. He got a marriage book. We're one. We're connected. We're soulmates. Why doesn't she get all bent out of shape? Because she filters a marriage book through a different color, through a different nature, called female. Why does he get all bent out of shape about the marriage book? And why not about the diet book? Because he's made male. Not wrong, just different. Fascinating. Powerful. But what's interesting is when he shuts down on that marriage book, when he refuses to read it, that stonewalling, that neglect, that silence at the level of intimacy in a woman's world screams, I don't love you. She would never do that. It's inconceivable. It's like fingernails down a chalkboard. How can you do this? You see, when he feels disrespected, unfortunately, he can begin to react in ways that feel hugely unloving to her. And I discovered something. I call it the love and respect connection. That without love, she reacts without respect. And without respect, he reacts without love. And then without love, she reacts without respect. And without respect, he reacts without love. And without love, she reacts without respect. And this baby starts to spin, and it gets crazy. If I came into this room and flipped on the lights 2 or 3 times and they didn't come on, you wouldn't think anything about it. But if I stood there for a half hour, 30 minutes, ever since I've been up here, and flipping them on and off, but they aren't coming on, right? I just keep flipping them on and off. You'd say I'm what? Crazy. Craziness is when we keep doing the same thing over and over again with the same ill effect. And we're compassionate toward people who are mentally handicapped, for instance, and mentally crazy, as we might say. They'll sit and rock and do this, or they'll keep repeating the same thing. And we're compassionate because we know it's a physiological problem. But there's a marital craziness. People of sound mind who've been married for many years are in what I call the crazy cycle. They keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. The topics change, but they keep spinning on the same crazy cycle, and they do it week after week after week after month after year after year. Good-willed people, not evil-willed people. Spinning, and they're getting nowhere. Now, someone might be saying, well, don't we women need respect? Or what are you saying? Are you saying that women don't need respect? Are you saying that men don't need love? No. It's a continuum. We all need love and respect. There's no question about that. In fact, some of you might say, hey, you're from Michigan area. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. Aretha, baby. Aretha Franklin, the soul queen. You know she sang that song, Women Want Respect. Yeah, that's right. Although, did you know that Otis Redding wrote that song in 1965, and it was released as a single by him for 2 years, and then they changed it to fit this up-and-coming soul queen in the late 60s called Aretha Franklin. I hope the irony of that doesn't escape your notice. But apart from that, yes, women need respect and men need love. But here's what I discovered. If women really wanted R-E-S-P-E-C-T as their most longed-for value from their husband, then tell me why in the whole card industry, why is there not one card from a husband to a wife that says, baby, I really respect you? It's not there because you don't want that card. You want L-O-V-E. Now, the card industry tried it, I'm sure, because they know Aretha's song, and those cards just bombed. But also, by way of insertion, you won't find one card from a wife to a husband that says, baby, I really respect you. We become a love-dominated culture. The Beatles sang, all you need is love, and we bought it, hook, line, and sinker. But there's something deeper within the souls of your sons that if we don't rightly diagnose, he's going to be an unhappy boy, a very unhappy boy. And also, if you show disrespect to a woman week after week, disrespect, she'll go, you know what? What? You don't even love me. How can you treat me disrespectfully and say that you love me? She'll land on love. You show disrespect to a man week after week. Disrespect. He'll go, you know what? What? I don't deserve this disrespect. Everybody respects me but you. He lands on respect. Interesting. Why is that? Well, what I discovered in the New Testament is the husband is commanded to agape love his wife. Agape is that unconditional love. There's agape and then phileo, Philadelphia, city of brotherly love, and that's another Greek word for friendship love, basically, and then there's eros, erotic. And those three Greek words all represent marriage. Agape, unconditional element, the friendship, phileo, and then the eros, or the erotic dimension. But no wife, did you know, is commanded to agape love her husband in the New Testament? Only husbands are commanded to agape. Why? I thought to myself as I looked at that. I had the privilege of studying the Bible 30 hours a week for nearly 20 years for the pulpit ministry in a college town. Have my PhD from Michigan State University as well in family-related studies. Have a master's in communication. So I kind of have a science bent, but I also have a scriptural bent. In fact, if you're an unchurched person, I understand that too, because I was unchurched for many years, so I want to be sensitive to your spiritual journey. But many of you who are outside the church are very concerned about the hypocrites in the church, and many people here are church people, and we all feel this need to be challenged. That's why they're here. We feel the need in our own souls to be challenged, to be more consistent in our marriage. So if you'll let me preach to the choir, permit me to do that, because the choir sometimes needs to be preached to, and many people in the church are saying, we need a challenge, we need encouragement. And if you're unchurched, help me, work with me as we go through this. We want to be very sensitive. I was in a college town for many years. I understand your presuppositions, your worldview. I'm not here to offend you. I'm here to challenge Christians. But I also want you to hear something that I think will encourage you. My mom and dad were unchurched, and I long, and I'll tell you a bit more about my own personal background, I wish mom and dad would have had an opportunity to hear this. Because I wet the bed until I was 11. I cried myself to sleep many a night. I was eventually sent to a military school at age 13 and was there until age 18. Because of family difficulties. And my mom and dad were good-willed, but they were on this crazy cycle. And it affected me deeply. I sometimes in recent days have been praying, oh, if somebody had just gotten to my mom and dad like maybe I'm having the privilege of getting to some of you. I know that my dad would not have wanted to be here. He would have come under protest. He would have felt very uncomfortable until I started telling a few jokes, I know my dad. I know some of you are like my dad, and I'm here to serve you. If you're unchurched, I understand. But back to the believers. In the New Testament, then no husband is commanded, no wife is commanded to agape love. Only the husband is. And I thought, why is that? Because God designed women to love. It's within her nature to nurture. She loves to love. It's something very powerful. God isn't going to command her to do what He created her to do because He's not into redundancy. That's why when you say to a guy, hey, yeah, does your wife love you? Yeah. Does she like you? No. Not today. And now that I think of it, she didn't like me yesterday either. See, men don't lack the assurance that their wives love them unless she says, I no longer love you. And you'll find a little bit of a reversal here. Some of you are going to say, well, we're a little bit reversed. I need respect. I ask every woman who says that, are you in love with your husband? And you know the answer to that. See, he'll become insecure about your love when he senses you no longer love him. But most women want to love. It's within their nature to nurture. They love to love. You got to wound a woman for her to stop that. But in the deepest recess of her heart, she's designed by God to love, and she wants love in response. I just wish he loved me as much as I love him. That's the typical sentiment. So guys don't lack assurance. That's why when you bring that marriage book home to him, he doesn't say, you don't love me. He doesn't process it that way. He knows you love him. And even if he were to say, you don't love me, you say, I do too. Don't you say that. You see, that's an affront to your nature. You would rebuke him. But you might go on to say, but no, I don't feel any respect for you right now. So what happens in the marriage relationship, because he's under command to agape love, he does that less by his nature. That's why God commands him to love, because it's not within his nature to love like you love. And that's why you long for him to be more loving, because you've sensed something within his nature. So when he feels disrespected, unfortunately, it's very natural for him to react in very unloving ways. But what I discovered is it's very natural for you to love, but when you feel unloved, it's very natural for you to react in very disrespectful ways. And this triggers the crazy cycle, big time. Now, are women conscious of this issue of love? Well, yes. Think of the 5th anniversary, and he comes home and he says, hey, it's our 5th. I've saved some extra money. I want to take you out to where do you want to go to eat? Where do you want to go? No, I don't know. No, it's our 5th. Where do you want to go? Oh, I don't know. Hey, no. Oh, come on. It's our 5th. I want to take you where you want to go. Where do you want to go? You decide. You want me to decide? Mm-hmm. No, I want to take you where you want to go. Where do you want to go? You decide. Really? Uh-huh. Hey, you know, I read in the Midwest magazine about the juiciest and best steaks in all of the Midwest. Do you know that truck stop out on Highway 96? I don't want to go there. He says, are you the woman I was just talking to? You're just picking a fight. You always pick a fight. I asked you where you want to go, and you tell me to decide. So I decide. Now you decide that we're not going to do it. I decided. And then he stomps off, and she stomps off. Two good-willed people on their 5th are stomping off from one another. Good-willed people. Now, what in the world is Pink thinking at that moment? She's very conscious of love, gentlemen. She filters everything through Pink. And here's what she's processing. Here's how she's thinking. If he loves me as much as I love him, he'll figure out where it is I want to go without me having to tell him. Not wrong, just different. That's how God has wired her. That's why we laugh at that, because we've experienced that. But from a blue perspective, she lied. So who's right? Yes. Who's wrong? Yes. It just depends on whether you want to filter it through pink or blue. And people are divorcing over this kind of thing. My mom and dad divorced one another when I was 1. And then they remarried one another, for which I'm thankful. But then they separated for about 5 years and then came back together, for which I'm thankful. But all through my developmental time, Mom and Dad were good-willed people. Coming out of the World War II during the 50s were some of the greatest years this country ever experienced, with all the bloodshed of the war. And they were trying to reestablish. They were good-willed people. It was a good country. And they were on this crazy cycle. And I have the scars because of it, because no one explained to them how to get off of it. May I serve you and help you get off of this because I don't want your children to cry themselves to sleep tonight, because Mommy and Daddy, who they both sense are good-willed people who would die for them, are fighting like cats and dogs and are proceeding with divorce and don't have to, because you're not evil-willed. Are men conscious of this need for respect? We had opportunity to contribute to some research. 400 men in America were surveyed by decision analysts. It was a random sample, great representative sample of America, not the church, just the American male. And it was wonderfully done. The question I asked and had contributed to this research was, when you're in a conflict with your wife or significant other, do you feel that she doesn't respect you during those conflicts or she doesn't love you during those conflicts? 84% of the men said, I don't think she respects me during those conflicts. Few men feel unloved during conflicts. Why? Because it's within your nature to nurture and to love, and he just doesn't lack that unless you told him, I don't love you. There was another interesting question asked of these 400 men, and it's this. You men, would you rather be left alone and unloved in the world, or would you rather be viewed as inadequate and disrespected by everyone? Again, would you rather be left alone and unloved in the world, or would you rather be viewed as inadequate and disrespected by everyone? 74% of the men said they'd rather be they'd rather be left alone and unloved in the world. They cannot handle the idea of being viewed as inadequate and disrespected. Not wrong, just different. Jesus said, have you not read who made them from the beginning, made them male and female? Pink is no more wrong than blue is wrong. I mean, we don't say, pink is wrong. The color is wrong. The blue is wrong. No, it's just different. Do you want to get off the crazy cycle? The crazy cycle is very simple, and it happens to the best of us. Sarah and I get on it almost weekly in one way or another, because she interprets the world through pink. I do through blue. Can you say the crazy cycle with me? The way I say it is, without love, she reacts without respect. And then you start again at what I call 6 o'clock. Without respect, she reacts without love. Can we say that in unison? Without love, she reacts without respect. Without respect, he reacts without love. Again, without love, she reacts without respect. Without respect, he reacts without love. Turn in your book and you'll see that red page. There you see the crazy cycle. And we get on it and it spins. In fact, there was a couple, he came to me and he said, it's our 10th anniversary, and he said, I remembered. And that was the clue to me as well. And he said, over that decade, I had forgotten every year, and she had hinted, and I hadn't picked up on the hint. She had reminded me, and I'd forgotten, and she had said nothing, and I'd done nothing. But he said on the 10th, I remembered. And in fact, he said, I went to the drugstore, and I came into the area where the cards were, and I walked across toward that section. I was about 20 feet away, and I was looking at all these cards, and one of them just jumped out at me. I mean, I could just, the colors, the words, it was her. So I just went right toward it, grabbed the card, got the envelope, went to the counter, and purchased it, went home, and she was there unexpectedly. So I hurriedly went into another part of the house, signed it quickly, put it in the envelope, put her name on it, and brought it to her. And I came into her presence, handed it to her, and she beamed from ear to ear. I mean, her face, it was just unbelievable. The energy going into her was unreal. And she opens the card, starts to read it, and her face drops. Turns completely sour, and her eyes get dark immediately. And I said, what's wrong? She said, nothing. He said, there is two. No, there's not. There is two. What's wrong? She holds it up. Not bad for getting me a birthday card. He was in the birthday section. He didn't pay attention. Now, if that was your relationship, where would it go? Can't you see him going something? No way, let me see that. Unbelievable. You're unbelievable, all right. Hey, look, I made an honest mistake, okay? Give me a break. I'm about to right over the head. Hey, I can't believe you said that. I made an honest mistake, okay? You know what? What? If they detailed your car out, they painted a little line across, and it was 1/1,000,000 of an inch off, you'd have noticed that. You'd have noticed that. You want to know why? Because you care about your car. And when people are careless about what you care about, you notice. You want to know why you're careless about this card? You don't care. Well, now she escalates it to character assassination. And he gets angry. I can't believe you said that. I can't believe you said that. I don't care. You know what? What? I'm glad I got you a birthday card. And two good-willed people are now stomping off on their tent in other parts of the house, staring out the window saying, this is crazy. This is crazy. How does this keep happening to us? Why does this keep happening to us? And folks, it's happening to most of us here. Less, some of us are not as volatile. We're more avoidant type. We don't explode, but we simmer, and we're doing the same thing. We can't believe it. They keep stepping on my air hose. Get off my air hose. And so we push them off our air hose, and we step on theirs without seeing it. And then they push us off their air hose, and they step on ours but don't see it. You see, without love, defensively, she reacts offensively without respect. And without respect, defensively, he reacts offensively without love. And without love, defensively, she reacts offensively without respect. And without respect, defensively, he reacts offensively without love. You see, it's a defensive reaction. When she gets the diet book, she's defensively reacting. I can't believe this. I can't believe this. I feel so unloved by you right now. I can't believe it. You may have two brains. One's lost, the other's out looking for it. You brainless idiot. I can't. And at a certain point, he no longer hears the deeper cry, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? Reassure me that you love me. Instead, Gottman and others out of the University of Washington studied 2,000 couples for 20 years, and they discovered that men begin to hear negative criticism as contempt for who they are as men. And they no longer hear the cry of pink, and they only hear a put down for blue. And they react. And she feels unloved in the first place. Now she sees him reacting even more in loving ways. And women are divorcing now 2 to 3 times more than men are. It's called the walk-away woman. Because we're filtering marriages today through pink and pink alone. And women are confused. And this will be your daughter-in-law. Unless we change and bring about mutual understanding. But also without respect, defensively he reacts. Why does he shut down in the marriage book? It's the third one, and he hears a message. He thinks that you don't approve of who he is. You used to glow during the courtship. You used to look up to him. You believed in him. Apart from his performance, you admired him. And that glow has left the first year of marriage, and he didn't know how to get it back. And now as he feels is that he knows you love him, but it's this ongoing message, change, change. I don't accept you. I don't approve of you. I don't respect who you are. And he defensively reacts. He just doesn't know what to do. He's not trying to be unloving. He's on the defensive. He's not trying to get up in the morning thinking, how can I be unloving? But when he shuts down on you, it feels unloving, and it's offensive. And so what's happening today, both are taking up offense. Men are saying, that's right, you're preaching, Emerson. These women are disrespectful and offensive and negative, and we're sick and tired of it. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You married a good-willed woman. You didn't stand at the altar and say, you know, you hate me and I hate you, so let's get married now. Her criticism and negativity and offensive reactions is her cry. You matter to her more than any adult at the level of intimacy. It's faint praise. It's been so faint you haven't heard it. But it's praise, true praise. I need you. She's not trying to emasculate you to get you to sing in the boys' choir at a high-pitched tenor. So the question is, will you decode? Will you decode? And women today are saying, I'm sick and tired of this. I'm offended by him. Nothing's positive in our marriage. He's unloving. No, 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 no. He would die for you. And Jesus said, no greater love is a man than this, that he laid down his life for his friend. Your husband's not sentimental, but he is self-sacrificial, and he would die for you. And according to Jesus, he's loving, but he's not sentimental. And don't confuse the two. And he has confused himself, but I will tell you that when he feels disrespected, he will react in ways that feel unloving to you. But he's not trying to say to you, I don't love you. He's not trying to say that at all. He's miles away. And yet some of you are going to see lawyers because you've concluded he doesn't love you. No, he's reacting because he thinks you don't respect him. Will you decode? And will you model for your future daughter-in-law how to decode with the boy that nursed at your breast? And you know he's a good-willed boy, but will your daughter-in-law? Let me tell you a true story. This actually happened on a subway, but I'm going to put it on a bus. And so we're on this bus, and it's an all-night, ride from destination A to Z. It's a 14-hour bus ride, red-eye special. And you get on the bus, and it's almost all full except for 4 seats. And you sit down, and we're waiting for the last 4 to get on, and finally the last 4 get on. It's a father with his 3 children. And the father comes right down the aisle and sits right in front of you by the window, and he starts staring out the window. The bus doors close, and the children don't sit down with the father. Instead, as you sit back and everybody sits back to put their eyes shut and start to get a little sleep, suddenly the bus starts rolling down, and one of the kids screams, the other screams, and then they run by, and they run by, and they run up and down, and suddenly there is chaos. These kids are out of control, and you sit up, the dad's just staring out the window. He ain't doing nothing. And these kids are in absolute chaos. So you sit up, everybody sits up, you're looking at everybody else in the bus, they're looking at you, and suddenly there's this silent vote. Everybody looks at you, and they vote you the chairperson to get the father's attention. Sir, 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 what? Would you have your children sit down? We'd like to get a little sleep. This is going to be an all-night bus ride. Your kids are out of control already. We haven't gone 1 minute. Would you have them sit down and be quiet? And he looks at you and he looks at everybody else and he says, oh, I'm sorry, sir. Everybody, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Please forgive them. We just came from the hospital. My wife, their mother just died. Where did your emotions go? They went from anger, irritation, hostility to guilt, empathy, understanding. You wanted to put your arms around those children. You wanted to put your arms around that husband. How did that happen? Everything changed, but nothing changed. Everything changed, but nothing changed. How can that happen? In fact, the kids scream now louder than they've ever screamed. In fact, it's really actually technically worse. And now you really don't have any recourse. But somehow it doesn't make any difference. How is it that everything changed but nothing changed? Well, we got a little piece of information that helped us decode, just a little piece of information. That information was that husband just lost his wife. Those children just lost their mommy. Up to that point, we were bringing our experience to the situation. I know why that man's doing what he's doing. He's a liberal, permissive. He is just, that's why we have so many problems in America. Those were my kids for 3 weeks. This wouldn't be going on. And those kids are anti-authority, anti-adult. See, we're bringing to our experience these former experiences, and we're interpreting everything. And of course, our feelings are the voice of God. And so we are absolutely convinced. But when we drew that conclusion, we were actually wrong, even though we felt we were right. But when we got that information that decoded, we suddenly, he's in shock, and the kids are in shock. That's what a lover does when he loses his wife. He's in shock. And little kids act out when they lose their mommy because they never lost their mommy before. And suddenly things change. My friend, you're on a marital bus ride. And you're irritated, you're angry, you're so spit mad, and you're bringing to these episodes in your marriage your experience, your feelings, and you know you're right. Particularly when you can predict what your spouse is going to do. Because now you're a prophet. One of you is stonewalling. The other's running up and down the marital aisle, spasmodically wild. The question is, can Sarah and I, in our time together, give you a little piece of information that's going to decode something for you? Everything's going to change. But nothing's going to change. It might even get worse. But you've got to work with us. If you're sitting here thinking, I hope my spouse is listening to this guy, then you've already begun to miss it, because you're going to lose power. If you listen to me from your standpoint, what am I asking the man to do in relationship to the woman? What am I asking the woman to do in relationship to the man? You're going to get power. You're going to be able to touch their spirit. You're going to be empowered. You are not powerless. I'm going to tell you, if you have any degree of goodwill in this relationship, and don't just take a snapshot of something that happened that was evil. That doesn't necessarily mean that they were evil-willed. Adultery may have happened, but that doesn't necessarily mean that person's an evil-willed person because they've done evil things. You know, you've got to be very cautious before you conclude that your spouse is Hitler's distant cousin. And remember, that is the mommy or daddy of your child. So, let's look at our book here and the craziness, decoding the craziness. We saw the anniversary story, their marital craziness. And we saw the bus ride story, the need to decode, to decode. I believe your wife is crying out for love. She's not trying to say, I have as my campaign to send you a message of disrespect every day of my life. And your husband is trying to say, I need to feel that you still believe in me apart from my performance. I have a need for you to admire my spirit even though my flesh is weak. He's not trying to say to you, I do not love you, even though he stonewalls you and shuts down, which in your pink world means I don't love you, because you would never do that. B, his and her deepest value. What is the deepest value or need? Well, in the diet book, she hears, I don't love you. You can fill in the blank there. But sadly, that's not what he's trying to say. He could actually be trying to help. And in the marriage book, he hears, I don't respect you. But that's not what she's trying to say. She's actually trying to increase the feelings of love between you. She's not trying to send a message of disrespect. This is based on Ephesians 5:33. Nevertheless, let each individual among you also love his own wife, even as himself, and let the wife see to it that she respect her husband. Well, number 2, is this why things get crazy? Yes, without love, she reacts without respect. And without respect, he reacts without love. Round and round and round it goes. Where it stops, only the divorce lawyer knows. In our book, Motivating Your Man God's Way, book 1 and 2, and in book 2 we quote the book Why Marriages Succeed or Fail, and University of Washington, Gottman in particular, the professor there says, men are far more likely than women to be stonewallers, 85%. When tension builds, it often takes only the arrival of criticism. Men avoid emotional conflicts by going off by themselves. If you ask a male stonewaller to describe his state of mind, he often says, I'm trying not to react, though his wife perceives his silence as an act of hostility. The wife is likely to interpret his response as a rejection of her. She couldn't imagine needing to withdraw over such a minor criticism. Such interactions can produce a vicious cycle, especially in marriages with high levels of conflict. The more wives complain and criticize, the more husbands withdraw and stonewall. The more husbands withdraw and stonewall, the more wives complain and criticize. This cycle must be broken if marriages are to avoid dissolution. If the wife becomes belligerent and contemptuous, the husband is likely to withdraw even more. They studied 2,000 couples for 20 years, and this was the conclusion there in their love laboratory up at the University of Washington. Notice that contempt and belligerence is a problem on the part of the female. And I believe that her deepest cry is, I need you to love me, but she will choose this very disrespectful reaction. Why? Because it's natural for her to be disrespectful when she feels unloved. And what is it natural for a man to do? To stonewall and to do something that feels very unloving to the wife. It's not natural for him to be loving when he feels contempt and criticize, because he begins to hear that negative criticism as contempt for who he is as a human being. But notice Colossians 3:19, husbands, agape, love your wives. That's her need. Listen to 1 Peter 3, verses 1 and 2. This is about husbands. The women were asking Peter that day, how do I win my husband to Christ? He doesn't want to believe in Christ. He is not a Christ follower. And Peter says, even if any of them are disobedient to the word, they may be won without a word by the behavior of their wives as they observe your respectful behavior. Respectful behavior. What's interesting in this verse, ladies, this is proof that this respect is what we call unconditional. Just as love is to be unconditional. Did you know Hosea 3:1? The prophet was told to go win his wife. How? Through love. And she was an adulteress. And it says, go love a woman who's an adulteress. You win a woman, if you're going to ever win her anyway, through love. Love is what melts her heart. How do you win a man? Not by loving on him, but by giving him the gift of unconditional respect for his spirit. It's the way you deliver it. It's the way you come across. And that's what brings him under conviction. Notice in this text, this man is disobedient. He does not deserve respect. He has not earned respect. It's not about you feeling respect. It is about him needing to feel that you respect who he is in spite of his performance, just as every woman needs to feel love for who she is in spite of her performance. No woman's nature will open up to a man who she feels is putting conditions on her. And no male will open up when he begins to feel that he must perform at a certain level before you will begin to believe in who he is deep within his soul. His nature just simply doesn't respond to it, especially between the two of you, because in courtship, you sent a message of unconditional belief in him. Both of you were in a dream world, and you looked up to him with a glow and said, I believe in you. But that first year of marriage, because he's less loving than you, he hurt you, unintentionally, but definitely. And as a result, you began to react in disrespectful ways, telling him day in and day out you love him, but that you don't respect him. And he doesn't know how to get it back. He's at a loss to know what to do. And he will surface, you don't respect me, and you say, I don't. And so he just shuts down. We'll explain, though, how to deal with this. Number 3, are you sure love and respect are these deepest needs? Well, both science and Scripture reveal the code about the 2 deepest values in marriage. In fact, Gottman's research at the University of Washington, after studying those 2,000 couples for 20 years, he said, now we know what the 2 key ingredients are for a successful marriage. His book, Why Marriages Succeed or Fail, in that he says, we now know the 2 key ingredients. You know what they are? Love and respect. Love and respect. The Bible said that 2,000 years ago. But listen to these scriptures. Genesis 29:32, surely now my husband will love me. I went through all the passages in the New Testament, Old Testament dealing with marriage, and I was stunned at the emphasis women have on love and the emphasis men have on respect and honor. But here you see a woman, surely now my husband will love me. Or Judges 16:15, she says, how can you say I love you when your heart is not with me? And you know the story of King David and his first wife Michal in 2 Samuel 6. Michal, his wife, saw David dancing before the Lord, and she despised him in her heart. See it? That's disrespect. That's contempt. And David said, I will be more lightly esteemed. And did you know that marriage ended? She was barren. Basically, that marriage ended right there. They stopped. The relationship stopped. That's like a man saying to a woman, I never have loved you. I have no intentions of loving you, and I never will love you. Say it once. Say to a man once, I could never respect you. And truth be known, I never have. Just say it once. Michal did with King David, and it was over with. The power of certain words is incredible. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Some of our fairy tales are the dumbest things. 4, is she conscious of her need for love, and is he conscious of his need for respect? Yes, many gals wonder, does he love me as much as I love him? That was the 5th anniversary story. Where do you want to go to eat? Oh, I don't know, you decide. Many guys simmer, I get no respect. That comes from the greatest theologian of the 20th century, Rodney Dangerfield. But is he conscious of this? Well, during the break, some of you women are going to want to turn to your husband and say, is that how you feel? Is this really true? Is this really true? A lot of you women are so foreign, you want to turn to him. Is that how you feel? And gentlemen, don't say, what do you think I've been trying to tell you for 11 years? Finally. No, gentlemen, don't do that. But he is very conscious of this, and that would be his natural tendency to tell you. The other way, you really want to say it, men, here's a word of wisdom. Well, honey, what he said makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, that's how I feel. But you know what? I want to better understand what it means to love you, honey. That's a word of wisdom. But are we conscious of it? Yes. When I say to Sarah, we're in a conflict, did I just come across unlovingly to you? She sparks up. When we have a conflict and she said, did I just come across disrespectfully to you? I perk up. There's power. Power. But listen to other scriptures. Genesis 29:32 and 33. Leah said, the Lord has heard that I am what? Unloved. Judges 14:16. Samson's wife wept and said, you only hate me and you do not love me. Esther 1. You know what the men feared? That the wives would look with contempt on their husbands. And they wanted an edict so that all the women would give honor to their husbands, great and small. It's interesting today that any passage that deals with a woman's need for love, that's understandable. Any passage that deals with a man's need to feel honored, he's arrogant and a chauvinistic, sexist pig. But if we reframe it from the standpoint that just as she needs to feel love for who she is, you know, you could make, a woman comes to me and says, I just want someone to love me and make me feel special. I just want someone to love me. I could technically make mincemeat of her. Well, is this all about you? Are you some kind of a prima donna? But we know that's not what she means by what she says. I have nothing to wear. You've got to come to grips with what they mean by what they say. And when your husband says, I just need somebody, I need you to respect me. I don't deserve this disrespect. Everybody respects me but you. You've got to understand what he means by that. He's not an arrogant, chauvinistic pig. He's saying, I have a need. You're stepping on my air hose. But when a woman feels unloved, she breaks down and cries, and we'll explain that. When a man feels offended in the deepest recess of his heart, he gets angry and goes off by himself to calm himself down. But when you videotape a woman who's crying and you videotape a man who's going off in anger, guess who looks guilty? And your baby boy, who when he's on a public talk show, he stands up among all these women, well, we guys need to be respected too. They're going to hiss and boo him right off the stage, and it could warp him for 30 years. Because he's not part of that culture. And he is going to get shot in a way that's unbelievable. They could destroy him. Because he doesn't know the language of women. And he doesn't understand the culture that you women are in. How do you seduce a woman? I will allure her and speak kindly and tenderly. That's how you draw her. How do you seduce a man? Proverbs 2:16, the adulteress who flatters with her words. Flattery is false respect. Number 5, why do we hear more about love in marriage than respect? Well, research shows that women are what we call expressive responsive. Expressive responsive. You express yourself, you respond. And it's the way God has wired you. That's that nurturing instinct. You're there at the moment. You respond to children, respond to people. You smile. That research has shown you wrinkle earlier because you smile so much. It's true. You're just there. Your spirit's there. And when mom is not happy, you're there. We see it. We can feel it. You're expressive responsive. So as a result of that, women are talking about their deepest need. Love. And we become a love-dominated culture. The feminist movement is motivated by good-willed women, but they're not Christ followers. They would be what they would refer to as evolutionists. They're secularists. They believe that the world is here by randomness. They do not believe in what we call a revelatory view of life. Jesus said, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. Abba, Father. That God, Abba. That loving Father. But they've rejected that worldview, at least in their intellectual pursuits. They will say we don't live by a revelatory view. They've rejected that. So they're secularists, and they really do believe we evolved from apes, and they believe that women have advanced down the evolutionary line much further than the men have. They really do believe that. And that's why there's this social engineering going on and why they're medicating boys. They're good-willed women who are intellectuals who have a course. They are going to change men. Men need to change. Men need to be like women. They are not evil-willed about that. They are intellectual people who are good-willed people, but they're not Christ followers. And that has spilled over into the church. And that's why I hear women say, I've got to stop being my husband's Holy Spirit. And I always say that's good because there's no vacancy in the Trinity. But women believe that men need to change. That men need to change, and we're here to help them change. And you're good-willed about it. But what's happened then is all about love, and men needing to be more loving. Men need to be more loving like we are, and they need to be less unloving, and they need to really be different. And if they did, we'll outlove them. Don't they know if they just changed a little bit that we'd outlove them? Don't they understand that we're not trying to be cruel or mean? We're trying to be helpful. We're just trying to increase love. And that's your motivation. God made you that way. But did you know Paul, who penned the love chapter, the greatest chapter on love in the literature of humankind, never commands a wife to agape love her husband? And Peter, who walked with the Lord of love for 3 years, when you looked at Christ, you saw love itself. He never commands a wife to agape love her husband. Instead, both Paul and Peter, no two small apostles, command this idea of unconditional respect. In Ephesians 5:33 is read that husbands must love their wives unconditionally. That's the meaning. And wives must respect their husbands unconditionally. It doesn't read, wives or husbands love your wives unconditionally, and wives only respect your husbands after they love you in ways that are meaningful to you. You cannot read the text that way. The point, though, is it's unconditional. He doesn't deserve it. She doesn't deserve it. But there's something powerful here. But there's a huge misunderstanding about respect. Isn't the opposite true, number 6, that gals need respect and guys need love? We've alluded to that. Many say that she needs R-E-S-P-E-C-T and he wants love, and yes. And we already talked about the card industry. You can fill in your blank there. But let me give you an illustration of the military. Let me share you again about the nature of the male. Suppose this 4-star general had asked permission to leave the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He was chairing it and said, I'd like to select 300 men to go into combat, a special op. And it'd be a male unit going in behind enemy territory in combat. And so he said, I want to train these men and I want to lead this group. And I can see him in front of the guys after a couple of weeks saying, men, you stunk today. You absolutely stunk. Miserable. I hand-selected every one of you.
Get your heads up. Look at me right now. I believe in you men, though, more than you believe in yourselves. I admire you more than you admire yourselves. And I'm leading out front, and the first to be shot and killed in this unit is going to be me. But, man, I believe in you. Get your head up, young man. Look at me. You have more athleticism than I've seen in many. Get your head up right now and look at me. The world is going to hear this unit in the next 3 years. We may all die, but we will die together. But the world will hear of us. And what we will do and the heights I'm going to take you, the world will hear of every one of you.
Now, ladies, I don't know if you understand what men feel when they hear a 4-star general like that speak to them. That's what we call unconditional respect, unconditional admiration, unconditional belief. And when men hear that, they do 2 things. They serve. That's why they call it the service. Hey, where'd you serve? I served in Vietnam. High five, and I was there too. The service. Second thing men do, listen to me. They die. They die. But we have voices in the radical feminist movement that say if you show respect toward a man, he'll treat you in a subservient way. So don't you even begin to show him respect unless he meets the criteria that you've established for that. And I say that is untrue. Not if he's a good-willed man. If he's a good-willed man, he will not treat you in a subservient way over the marathon of the marriage. He will serve you. He'll have a bad hair day just like you do. You are not married to a perfect person. And he didn't marry a perfect person. The second thing, this culture says, if you treat a man with unconditional respect, he'll kill you emotionally. No, 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 not a good-willed man. Not over the marathon of the marriage. He will die for you. He will die for you. There was one man who said to his wife, I love you so much. I love you so much, I would die for you. She said, oh, Harry, you keep saying that, but you never do. But we both need love and respect, and we'll share with you, though, there's a difference even in those uses. He needs love, but it's a different kind of a love, and she needs respect, but it's a different kind of honor in the Greek, and we'll point that out. Number 7, isn't it agreed that love is the most important ingredient and respect is marginal? Well, what does you read on that emboldened statement? Does it say God is now here or God is nowhere? It's all put together. If you're a believer, you probably saw God is now here. If you're an unbeliever, you saw God is nowhere. Now, if you're a believer who saw God as nowhere, you better freak out. No. This is just an illustration, and the illustration is this. Pink sees the presence of love in the absence of love. Just as a believer sees the presence of God, and just as an unbeliever doesn't see the presence of God. I mean, and blue sees the presence of respect and the absence of respect. This is an illustration to show that we videotape in different colors. But what's happened today is we've been videotaping in pink, and so pink sees love as the dominant issue, and this respect thing, blue, is really a marginal issue. If we just love one another, that's all that matters. But here's a point that I want to make. Can our spouse have a need that we don't have? And is that okay that our spouse would have a need that we don't have? And particularly toward men, is it okay that a man has a need to feel respected for who he is apart from his performance? In the same way you need to feel love for who you are apart from your performance? Is that okay? And if it feels strange, is it strange? If it feels foreign, is it really foreign? If it feels marginal, is it really marginal? Jesus said, have you not read, he who made them from the beginning made them male and female. Consider it. Number 8, don't some wives feel uncomfortable showing respect to a husband? Because this is the uniqueness of what we're saying, I need to highlight this dimension. That's right. Some gals say, well, look, I don't feel any respect for him. He certainly doesn't deserve it. He hasn't earned it. He's not superior to me, and that's the dictionary definition of showing respect to your superiors. I'm not inferior to him. I'm not going to be a doormat. I'm not going to be treated in a subservient way, and he could abuse me emotionally. But other than that, Pastor, I'm really open to hearing what you had to say about this. That's where the culture's at. So we do have a little bit of a challenge for us, particularly those in the believing community, because Scripture's so clear. These are salient passages. These are not secondary interpretations. These are central. But some contend showing respect makes a husband superior and a wife inferior. And let me just say, biblically that's not true. In the eyes of God, we are equal. We're not the same, but we're equal. We are equal. We are equal. It's very important that you understand that when we talk about different needs, a woman isn't more important because she needs to be loved. A man's not important because he needs respect. We're just different. Not wrong, not less than, not more than, just different. Have you not read? He who made them from the beginning made them male and female. I mean, he's no more superior than you're a prima donna for being loved and wanting love. We can misinterpret easy enough if we want, but we come to a point where we choose to trust the goodwill of that person. Number 9, what if a husband doesn't deserve respect? Well, it isn't about him deserving it. It's about him needing it. You see the difference? He doesn't deserve it. Put it this way. Must Sarah be lovable before I love her? No, I'm to love her whether she's lovable or not. And if I don't love her when she's unlovable, you will tell me that I'm an unloving human being. That's where the culture's at. What we're also saying by way of comparison is you're to respect your husband whether he's respectable or not. In other words, you give him that gift. Now, we're not talking about you being in harm's way. If he's physically violent, you must remove yourself from that. But I'm talking about basically a good-willed man who shuts down on you when you give him a marriage book. He's not sentimental. He's not as expressive, responsive. He's not who you want him to be. And we're talking about you being a respectful person, especially when he comes across in unloving ways. You give him a gift, something he doesn't deserve. And it's as simple as your tone, your facial expression, word choice. Just as he needs to ask himself, is that which I'm about to say to my wife going to feel loving to her or unloving? It works every time. If a wife says, is that which I'm about to say to my husband going to feel respectful to him or disrespectful to him? He may deserve the disrespect, but I'm going to tell you, he will not feel fond feelings of affection and love in his heart toward a woman he thinks despises who he is as a human being. But when you give him the respect that he doesn't deserve, you're a better man than he is probably at that moment. And he comes under conviction. Just as a man who's loving said, I'm sorry for being unloving. I want to love you more. I don't understand where I'm making a mistake. Every woman I know softens in the face of that vocabulary. It's within your nature to hear something spoken, especially when pink words come out of a blue megaphone. And when blue words come out of a pink megaphone. Me hear mother tongue. It been said she once knew how to speak this. She did in courtship. You watch, it'll jerk him. So it's not about him deserving it. It's about him needing it. And what's interesting in the culture, do you know women can say, I love you, but I don't respect you? And I say to women, what would you feel if your husband came to you and said, honey, I respect you more than anybody, especially since your old man gave you that $10 million inheritance. Boy, do I respect you, woman. But let's get it straight. I never have loved you, don't love you now, and don't intend to love you. Every woman I know said I'd be devastated by that and I'd never get over it. That's right. What do you think he feels if he needs respect in the same way you need to feel love when you say to him, I love you a ton, but I don't respect you right now. I don't know if I've ever respected you, and I don't know if I ever can respect you. You have devastated him, and he will never get over it. Apart from you hearing from me how to correct that mistake. And if it's an innocent mistake, and it is, it'll be okay. But you need to hear me first. And what I'm saying is not so much for Sarah being lovable. The issue here is the command is from God to me to be a loving man, whether she's lovable. And this is a command of God to the woman to be respectful, whether he's deserving of it or not. And the key to winning a disobedient husband is by giving him a gift of something he doesn't deserve, just as Hosea gave the gift to his adulterous wife, something she didn't deserve, and it won her heart, and it wins his heart. It just works. It takes work, but it works. Now, I'll tell you this, you cannot be disrespectful to motivate love, and you cannot be unloving to motivate respect. So you're at a crossroads. Number 10, are you saying he needs unconditional respect equal to her need for unconditional love? Well, like needing oxygen, she needs unconditional love, and he needs unconditional respect, yes. And you'll see that in 1 Peter 2. The 1 Peter 2 is unfolding this idea of honoring and respecting people who do not deserve it, who are not gentle, who are not good, who are not reasonable, but that's the call, both love and respect. And it's unconditional. It's powerful. Number 11, as you said, is this why we react and things get a bit crazy? Yes, she reacts when unloved for who she is, and he reacts when disrespected for who he is. And that's why one of the ways that we get off of it, I say to Sarah, that felt disrespectful. Did I just come across as unloving? What that does, it puts voice to my deepest need, but it gives her the benefit of the doubt. And it is amazing what happens when she says to me, that felt unloving. Did I just come across as disrespectful? She's putting voice to what she's feeling, but she's giving me the benefit of the doubt, the good-willed man that she's married to. I give the benefit of the doubt to the good-willed person.
I don't say to her, you are so disrespectful. You're a disrespectful woman. No, that felt disrespectful. I'm not saying she's right. I'm not saying she's wrong. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm wrong. That felt disrespectful. Did I just come across as unloving? Whoa, power. That felt unloving. Did I just come across as disrespectful? She didn't say, you are despicable. You're so unloving. You're the most miserable person. No, no, no. That felt unloving. Did I come across disrespectful? Folks, if you introduce that language, I'm going to tell you the craziness is going to stop. Of course, your fear is your spouse is going to say, you're absolutely right. You're unloving, and you're so disrespectful. And what you just simply say is, I'm sorry. It takes guts, and we'll tell you how to do this. We'll give you a little precursor here. I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? And then just go off. Just distance yourself. Watch what happens if you're married to a good-willed person. And let me add a little bit, having been at the conference, as you walk away that time, you're just doing that because Emerson told you to. They'll add that, those of you who've been at the conference. Just say, no, he's right. You just watch what happens. You've got to be married to one bad dudess or one bad dude for them to shut down on that. But you've got to take it by faith. It works. Takes a little work, and we'll come back to that point. D, how do I get my spouse to meet my need, though? I've got this need. How do I get them to meet that need? Number 12, now that you say this, it's so obvious, so why doesn't my spouse get it? Well, she thinks her acts of love are respectful. That's why. And he thinks his acts of respect are loving. What do I mean, his acts of respect are loving? I put a roof over that woman's head, and she says I don't love her. Women go, gag me. She appreciates the provision, but there's so much more to love than just a roof over her head. And women say, I don't know why he'd say I don't respect him. I listen to him. I care for him. I do his laundry. Why would he ever say I don't respect him? Because in a fight yesterday, you said, I don't respect you. That's a clue why he feels that. 13, what if he says, I don't know if I love you, and she says, you don't deserve my respect? Ah, there's that statement. Well, ignorantly she said, you don't deserve my respect, and ignorantly he said, I don't know if I ever loved you. So you're in this huge fight with your husband, and he says, I don't know if, and after 2 hours after this comes, I don't know if I know what love is. I don't know if I've ever loved you. What need for further witnesses? Crucify him, right? But that's not what he meant by what he said. What he meant is, I don't know if I know what love is. I don't know if I've ever loved you in the way you need to be loved. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't say fully what he meant. Or you get in a fight with your wife and she says, I could never respect you. She said it, right? But in her world, she knows it provokes you. It's a noodle in the face because she's trying to get you to understand, that she's feeling unloved. But gentlemen, there's no man or woman in your world who talks to you that way. So in our world, it's a brick in the face. And so the question is, are you going to take up offense or are you going to give her the benefit of the doubt? She knows it provokes you, but she's clueless fully as why. And he knows when he shuts down, it provokes you, but he doesn't fully know why. Or he says, I don't know what love is. I don't know if I've ever loved you. He didn't mean that. So you've got to come to a point where you believe the goodwill of your person that you're married to. Trust their heart, even though they've stepped on your air hose, even though they're offending you at times. 14, can a good marriage become better and a poor marriage become good? Yes. If goodwill exists, then most conflict is due to a misunderstanding of each's core value. I love 1 Corinthians 7:33 because it says there in 34, the husband is concerned about how to please his wife, and the wife is concerned about how to please her husband. And the one who penned that is Paul, who also wrote Romans, talking about the total depravity and the sinfulness of people. That one who then said that there says in marriage, you know what? You're created in the image of God. And I do not believe that a husband gets up in the morning thinking how I can displease my wife. And a wife doesn't get up in the morning thinking how can I displease my husband. You don't get up in the morning with ill will. You don't get up in the morning and think how I can offend them. She's not getting up thinking how can I be disrespectful, offensive, and negative toward you today. He's not getting up, how can I come across as unloving, offensive, and lack something positive in our marriage today? How can I just ruin her day today? Paul is saying you're both concerned about how to please the other. Then why do we keep displeasing one another? We don't in our intent. And so there's a crucial point here. We come to a point, Sarah and I did, where I trust her goodwill. She comes to a point where she trusts my goodwill. Even though I'm going stonewalling on her and silent and getting angry, she still chooses to trust my goodwill. She concludes that she must have stepped on my air hose, as stupid as I may be for thinking that. And when we choose to trust the other's goodwill, good things begin to happen. And we can say a lot of things. You hurt me. I can't believe it. You're stepping on my hairs. I know you're not intending to do that, but boy, it's tough for me to believe that right now. But I know your heart. Doggone it. You will not divorce, and that person will probably soften. You got to know how to fight. You got to know how to argue. You got to know how to state things. And if you think to yourself, am I going to say something to my wife that will help her understand that I love her and I'm not trying to be unloving? Am I going to say something to my husband that will help him feel that I want to respect who he is and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I need his love? Can you voice it that way without feeling you're forsaking the feminist team? If you do, good things are in store. 15, I hold my spouse responsible, so how do I get him or her to move first? I prayed about that, because that's the question most of you are asking right now. Because it'd be so easy. If he would just love me, if he would just love me, I would respect him. If she would just do what this guy is saying. But you can't be listening that way, right? But even if you are, so, well, okay, well, go ahead, just give me a little hint there. What would be the answer? I prayed, I said, Lord, what is the answer to this? And there was this inaudible voice that said, here's the answer. The one who sees himself or herself as the most mature moves first. I don't know if that's from God, but I don't think it's from the devil. 16, what can I do when my immature spouse makes me so mad? Your spouse doesn't make you mad. What happens during a fight and the phone rings? Ever since I married you, you make me so mad. I'm so mad I'm out of control because of you. I'm so out of control because of you. Ring, ring, ring. Hello? Hey, Jan, yeah, 7 a.m. tomorrow. I'll see you. Yeah, bye. And for the last time. We're not out of control. If $1 million was given to you for at the end of 6 weeks, if you never got mad at your spouse, and the video crew was going around videotaping you, you wouldn't get mad. You see, folks, we don't lack ability. We lack incentive. "17, what if I choose to act on this? Love empowers a husband to energize his wife, and respect empowers a wife to energize a husband. And we're going to be explaining that in our next 2 sessions. There is power here. There's power. And every wife knows there's power if a husband were to love her. And every husband knows that if a wife respected him, there's power there. The question is, will we trust that if I actually am the mature one and I move first and I do this, even in the face of my spouse who isn't responding, would it really work? And I'm going to tell you, yes, if there's any degree of goodwill. And even if you've had adultery, even if there's been separation, even if there have been a lot of things that you could incriminate them on in the subsequent days of this relationship, you can take a snapshot. Let me live with you for 2 weeks, and I can take a series of snapshots and put it on the front page of the newspaper and incriminate every one of you. And some of you are incriminating your spouse, and the Lord is saying, but you know that's not their deepest heart. Why are you doing that toward your children's parent? You know that's not their deepest heart. And you're trying to incriminate them to motivate them to change. And that's your deepest heart. But you talk about being so far removed from effectiveness and how this will result completely in misunderstanding. 18, isn't this too simplistic, though, since so many other problems exist? Well, the problems are not the problems we know now. The root issue is an unloving and disrespectful attitude. You know, it might be that you're having this conflict over money, and you say to her, what'd you do with that $500? You always spend. I can't believe it. You're always spending this money. And their spirit deflates, right? And then 3 years later, you're divorced, and you said, if we didn't have those money problems, we'd be married today. No. It wasn't the money as the topic. It was your negative, unloving attitude toward her. Her nature, Pink, cannot handle that lack of love and that negativity. She just shuts down. Or tonight, later, you say to your wife, hey, our parents have the kids. Do you want to be sexually intimate? Is that all you ever think about, you beast? Sex. And then 3 years later, you're divorced. You said, if we didn't have the sex problems, we have a great relationship. No. Sex was important, but that wasn't the issue. It was your disrespectful, negative attitude. His maleness he can't function around that. God hasn't designed him. But a woman will break down and cry and go on a talk show. That's where our culture's at, generally speaking. He will get angry and go off by himself. So what we have to do is understand that her pain is real. We need to understand it. His pain is real. We need to understand it.
Not wrong, just different. 19. What is a major mistake couples make? Here it is. That he can be unloving to get respect, and she can be disrespectful to get love.
I'm not going to love that woman until she starts showing me respect.
Oh, now that's effective. But notice where the culture is with women.
There's no way that I'm going to respect him until he starts loving me.
Oh, that just motivates him tons. You know, some of us are living in this world where we think that our spouse is going to awaken to something, that 30 years in the marriage, they're going to come to us one day. I had an epiphany. What? I now realize why you've been negative for 30 years. Why? It was to motivate me to be positive. Folks, are you on the crazy cycle, flipping the lights on and off? Is it working, the things you've been doing? Could it be that your methods are wrong? Your heart's in the right place. Your heart is in the right place, but your method is foolish. And God is calling you to begin to think about this differently, to be effective, not to be rendered impotent. The feeling is if I'm loving in the face of a disrespectful woman, it's going to tear me apart. The feeling is if I'm respectful in the face of an unloving man, it's going to rip me apart. We'll explain to you how to do that, but that's your worst fear. So you want them to move first before you dare go there. But those who dare go there begin to find something happening that they never thought would happen. And lastly, what else should we know about these two values? Well, they're important definitions. We're going to define what love is, and we're going to define what respect is, because it's a foreign topic to women. What are you talking about? And there are also important connections between love and respect. Just as without love, she reacts without respect, and without respect, he reacts without love. We're going to see how to get off the crazy cycle. And that's by getting on the energizing cycle. His love motivates her respect, and her respect motivates his love. And we're going to define what love is, we're going to define what respect is, and we're going to share with you what you can do in some simple ways that actually energizes. Why? Here's a secret. The key to motivating another person is meeting their deepest need. Let's close in prayer, shall we? Father, we are so grateful for these truths. And I know that there are couples here who have wonderful marriages, but if they're like Sarah and me, we get into that negative, edgy kind of thing, and we just need to be energized. And I can sense that some are just excited about just a refresher here, and I rejoice with them. Lord, there are others who may be like my mom and dad, and my heart feels with them. I understand that pain. And they're here maybe under protest, out of fear, out of anxiety. They feel badly enough about themselves. They don't want to feel worse. They know their heart's in the right place. They felt so misunderstood. They acknowledge that they've overreacted at times and have fed the craziness, and they feel a bit hopeless because they feel so helpless at times. But I pray, Father, that they would see that there's some simple things that can actually bring them out of a pit they thought there was no top to. Father, I am for them, and may they open their heart. I just ask, Lord, that they'd be willing to be hurt again, that they would risk it, that they wouldn't close off so much that they'd be unwilling to risk being hurt again. And so, Father, we are grateful for these insights. Together, may we be encouraged to know that we're not alone. We laugh because we all experience the same things. We are not somehow uniquely bad. We really are quite alike. May those who feel defeated not interpret themselves as the worst of all people. In your name we pray. Amen.